الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر.
You often see it trending on YouTube and broadcast on television that a religious person can never truly progress in the modern world. They claim that science and religion are inherently against each other and can never be reconciled, creating a false narrative that faith is a barrier to advancement. As long as Europe held on to religion, they believed there was no progress until Europe discarded religion from its society 5 centuries ago, reaching the absolute peak of progress afterward. People now say, pack all the religious clerics into a large container and throw them into the deep sea, then peace will finally come and you will watch how true progress arrives. They suggest that if you just lock all these religious people in a container and throw them into the sea, then God willing, peace will finally come to the whole country, along with the progress that we have all been waiting for, as well as progress. The education system in our madrasas is 1,000,000 times better than yours. So brother, the nation is very fertile. The nation is very fertile. It is the leaders and those who are responsible for running the nation who are the corrupt ones, hindering the potential of the people and stopping the progress we should be seeing today. So nowadays this narrative is widespread across all media, that religious people can never progress, they cannot achieve this or that. It is all absolute and total nonsense. Only this small virtue remains. I once saw a video where the standard of cleanliness in Europe was compared to the current state of our own countries and the massive heaps of filth that we see. The person who made this comparison showed a stark difference between the two worlds. He highlighted how one side lives in absolute order while the other struggles with waste, making us realize just how far behind we are in terms of basic public hygiene and management. He clearly showed the difference between their ways and ours. Do you truly understand what I mean when you look at these comparisons? It is about more than just trash. It is about the entire mindset of the two societies. It shows Europe's clean streets where someone eats chips and carefully looks for a bin for the wrapper. In our society, the video shows a completely different story of how we handle our waste and our public environment. Here, chips are eaten and just tossed away without a second thought. A lady takes off a baby's diaper in the car, swings it around several times in the air, and then just lets it go. She bowls it away like a Freddy, launching it far from the car. That is one scene they show, and then tell me there is this other side of the story that we must also address. My brother was traveling to his workplace once. My brother used to work at the stock exchange back then, and he was quite busy with his daily routine as he made his way through the city for his job. He was a professional broker agent. Assalamu alaikum, how are you today? So in Karachi, near the Bolton Market area, something happened while he was out and about. There was a 4K or 4J bus, and a gentleman there was eating pan. He spat a stream forcefully out the window. You know, a typical pan eater doesn't spit the wretched thing until the liquid gets completely out of control and his mouth is filled to the very brim with it. Because he has spent his hard-earned money on the pan, he wants to savor it as much as he can, so he spits just a tiny bit at a time to keep the situation manageable while he enjoys the flavor. No, he will swirl it around, puffing his cheeks out like a balloon. He can't even talk properly. It's such a visible struggle until the internal pressure of the liquid becomes far too much for him to hold back. Then he finally spits it out with full force and power through the window without even looking at who it might land on or considering the impact it will have on the street. My brother was dressed very neatly, wearing a crisp, perfectly ironed shirt and a pair of professional-looking trousers that day. He had just gotten off a bus or maybe a taxi, I don't recall exactly, and was heading to the office when someone suddenly spat a mouthful out of a window without any warning at all. It landed right on his pants, completely ruining them in an instant. He said he got so angry at the disrespect that he started chasing after the bus as fast as he could possibly run. Thinking he'd teach the man a lesson, he managed to board the bus and grab the guy, but then the man just looked at him and apologized immediately for what he had done to his clothes. Brother, please forgive me, it was a mistake. Seeing his pathetic state, my brother thought, what could I even say to him? The man apologized, so what can one really do in that situation? Watch these videos from Europe. You won't see anyone chewing betel nut or spitting because their public habits and culture are fundamentally different from our own. In those countries, like someone who just arrived from the UK and knows better, YouTubers are constantly making these comparisons to show how far behind we are in our daily habits and manners. It's a world of difference. I've never seen anyone in Europe or America first gather up their phlegm with such deliberation and focus before deciding where they are going to discharge it next. They don't collect it in their mouth and then forcefully spit it out onto a wall or the street with a loud, disgusting sound. I have never seen that behavior there. They'll say, "Excuse me, sir," walk politely to the side, perhaps clear their nose or throat into a tissue, and do it all in a very civil and respectful manner. Then he sat in front of the public again. First of all, over there, a person with a cold wouldn't even roam around in public like that. If a man has the flu, people would run 36 kilometers away from him, fearing a germ might fly over and infect them. This is total madness anyway, in my personal opinion. So, let us look at the situation from a much more realistic and balanced perspective today. Now these liberal secular people, these so-called liberals, they keep pointing out comparisons, saying look at them and look at those, to highlight the differences they see between the Western world and our own people. And then they criticize these Muslims. Remember, this bit of cleanliness that you see in our country, despite the failures, is actually still there because of the foundational values taught by Islam. It's because of Islam. Understand that if it weren't for Islam, go to those other countries where there is no faith to guide the people in their personal habits and public manners, where governments are corrupt and there is no Islam either. Their filth and dirt, I won't name the specific countries to avoid spreading hatred among the people, but their lack of hygiene is profound. If you saw the filth and heaps of garbage in those countries, you'd be shocked. They are so incredibly filthy that it makes our current situation look much better by comparison. When the government is corrupt and the people don't have the guidance of Islam, you simply can't compare their level of filth to our country, because our religion still encourages us to be clean. So whatever is happening here in our country regarding the mess, it is actually the incompetence of the governments that fail to provide the proper systems for waste management and public cleanliness. Now regarding the matter of public training, tell me one thing. If there's a pile of trash somewhere and the government isn't clearing it, what does nature say? Nature says whoever has trash will throw it right there, thinking that since there's already trash there, it's not just because of their single action. So they keep throwing. But if a place has been cleaned up properly, then would anyone really feel comfortable throwing trash there? Would anyone really feel like throwing trash there? We cleaned our area, but soon saw our own friends throwing trash there. I told the boys to set up a camera so we could see who was responsible for this behavior. Record a video if anyone throws trash now. Then I saw my own close friend come. I thought, why should we humiliate him publicly? The reason is he doesn't know it's not a dump anymore. He thinks the government has just cleared it temporarily. That's what I said. The poor guy thinks that this spot is still a garbage dump, that this is a garbage dump. So we must first announce that Alhamdulillah, our street is no longer a dump. Otherwise, people think that wherever they see a single plastic bag lying, it must be a new trash dump. A single plastic bag makes it a dump. Keep this point in mind. It explains why our streets stay dirty despite all our best individual efforts. Any virtue or goodness we possess as a society is not due to the efforts of the governments at all, as they have largely failed in their duty to the public. It is solely because of our culture and our religion. If religion weren't in our country, my brother, the social order would have completely collapsed a long time ago due to mismanagement. The state our rulers left us in, and the ruin we'd have faced without faith, history might not find any parallels to that kind of destruction of a society and its values. In foreign countries, people avoid crime primarily because the law is strong and the consequences are immediate, so they follow the rules out of a sense of fear for the legal system. Here, if anyone avoids crime, it's not fear of law, but fear of Allah that keeps them honest. Anyway, returning to where I started my talk today, I want to clarify this point. I am coming back to that point. I was saying that there are certain subjects that Allah in the Holy Quran has repeatedly mentioned to emphasize their importance to the believers and humanity. Repeated. I was giving the example of paradise and hell. Allah mentioned paradise repeatedly throughout the text. The reason for this repetition isn't just to fill space or provide basic information. The reason is not that Allah only wants to provide theoretical knowledge, but rather to urge us towards performing the deeds that lead to paradise and to keep us motivated on the right path. Since Allah wants to urge us toward goodness, He has mentioned the rewards of paradise repeatedly to ensure that the promise of success remains fresh in our hearts and mind. He repeatedly mentioned paradise. A gentleman's statement just came out recently, and he began to say something that caught my attention regarding how we view our society compared to the West. He made that same comparison, right? Our countries are piles of trash and so on, and then said so many kids are roaming around the streets without any supervision or proper care being given. Look in the streets. When you visit the West, you won't see kids, only decent looking people. Isn't that so? Kids seem missing from the markets. They are only seen in parks. I recently visited Turkey and saw kids playing in the streets. You don't see that in Europe, but you do in Turkey because they are Muslims, right? They value family and children. They have maintained this standard. So when you go there, you see only adults all looking decent and quiet. Now compare that with our society, where there's a flood of kids everywhere you look, making the environment very different. They are everywhere like frogs in the rain. So which society will look better to a visitor? Theirs with decent people and everything kept so neatly in order without any chaotic disturbances. Does a child ever let anything stay in order? No, it's out of the question. They make a mess of everything in 2 minutes, turning a tidy room into total chaos immediately. You try to lie down for a nap, but they won't let you sleep. They cry in such a way, they cry so much that you feel like you can't even breathe and you just don't know what to do to make it stop. I won't give that example because it unfortunately often leads to unnecessary sectarianism. When a child starts crying, he has no sense or awareness at all that, hey, you should really try to control your volume just a little bit because other people are trying to rest, sleep, or do some very important work inside the house. The neighbors are asleep, the whole street will wake up eventually, dad is sleeping and mom is sleeping too. If you absolutely had to cry at this high, intense speed, you really should have just done it earlier in the daytime. At 2:30 or 3 in the morning, this intensity is not appropriate at all. How he screams, just tearing his throat out. They don't understand anything at all at that very young age. If you try to explain the difficult situation to him or ask for a bit of quiet, he just won't listen at all and continues with all his loud noise. Sometimes kids are so active at 2:30 in the morning, as if they've just woken up for the start of a new day and are ready for full play and excitement. They'll be laughing out loud and doing somersaults all over the place. You would say, man, is this really the time for this? Please don't play with us now because we really need to get some restful sleep. Our spiritual master used to say that children are essentially non-conformists. But what are children exactly? They want a logical reason for every single thing you tell them, yet they completely lack the cognitive capacity to understand that logic even when it is explained to them clearly. They want a reference for every single thing. Why? Because they ask so many questions, don't they? Why? For everything they'll ask why. If you sit them down to explain, they'll just raise a new question for every point you make, leading to an endless cycle of questions that never truly ends. When you visit Western countries, you don't find such tension in their homes. It is generally a very peaceful and quiet environment where everyone respects each other's space and need for calm. You won't hear any screaming ba 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 or find any noise and chaos in the streets like we do here. It's a completely different level of public discipline and social order. Peace, calm and silence are everywhere there. We've traveled on trains here in our country, even in the expensive business class sections, and the experience is very different. Yet there's still noise. If a child starts crying, it disturbs the whole carriage while parents try feeding him, but the noise continues to bother every single person who is traveling, giving drinks or rattles, making faces, sticking their tongues out or rolling their eyes, but nothing affects him at all as he continues to scream at the top of his lungs. But when you travel on European trains, there's total silence throughout the trip. Everyone there is educated and knows how to behave in a public space without disturbing others. No child on anyone's lap. They're all with their laptops, thinking deeply of national progress and how they can develop Germany even further through their professional work and innovation. Understand? They sit like that. One might be studying intensely, wearing glasses, looking like a highly educated man who is focused entirely on his own intellectual development and his responsibilities. So people say these are the developed ones. See with how much focus and concentration they work on their tasks without any of the distractions that we face in our daily lives. Observe just how intensely and purposefully they have managed to focus on their unique vision. If you travel on our trains, just try sitting down with a book. I published a new vlog recently where I was shown trying to study some books. But my little daughter just wouldn't let me study. In that vlog, she's holding the book upside down, sitting right there next to me, and she simply won't let me read a single page in peace no matter how hard I try. Now, when this video goes out to the world, they'll see these religious scholars. If they want to read, their kids won't let them. She started reading it herself and it took 15 minutes to get it back. She wouldn't give it up, saying she'd read it and then started in her baby talk, but it's not like that over there. In those countries, they really focus on things and have the environment needed to concentrate on their work and studies. They focus entirely on their work. There is absolutely no child pulling at their legs or constantly distracting them from their professional duties. They don't get calls from home saying a child is sick and needs the hospital. That's why great scientists are produced there, because they have the freedom to focus entirely on their research. You understand focus, right? Doing whatever you're doing with total concentration. The women there are also very mature, not just holding kids in their laps. One here in her arms, another holding her dress from behind. In our markets, when women go out, one child is pulling from this side. Mom, get me sugarcane juice. One says, get me sugarcane juice. Another says, no mom, get those melons. We were 4 siblings, all very close in age, and if our poor mother ever dared to take us to the local markets, we would completely wreck her day with our demands. We wanted sugarcane juice, and then we wanted the ice lolly guy as well. As soon as the vendor arrived, we screamed, "Mom, buy me sugarcane sticks." And then a huge fight broke out between us siblings because one got more while I received fewer sticks, creating absolute chaos for her. "Mom, buy me that car, I like it." Mom bought us a car, and then another brother or sister started screaming, "He got a car, get me a helicopter." Now tell me, can progress happen? Listen, Western women don't have this chaos. When their mothers go to the market, there are no kids, maybe one, and even if they have one, he's grown up. What will he do? How will he bother her? And you don't even see sugarcane juice stalls like that over there. Everything is very hygienic. The government delivers things right to their homes. So there, I have seen people on trains and planes behaving so decently and peacefully without any of the usual chaos. Look at our PIA, children crying everywhere, making a huge racket, kicking their legs. Even the air hostess tries to calm them down, but the child is completely defiant. He is practically inviting a debate, not ready to listen at all. Look, people compare all this behavior and they see those people in the West as superior because of their order and calm. And then there's this ignorant society. Like monsoon frogs, these wretched people have produced a line of children they cannot even manage. It's just not making sense. It's not making any sense. I don't think you will understand the depth of this issue. You just won't understand how critical this social training is. I observe these things constantly. I'm not talking nonsense today. I've been watching videos where they show this reality. So look at the facts as they are. I remember while traveling in France or Germany, I recorded a video on a train and the viewers commented, "Look, Mufti Sahib, the population there is well controlled. See the order in their society and the management that comes with a limited population." Meanwhile, we lack such management because our population is not controlled at all. I recently saw a vlog stating that hundreds of thousands of children are born in Pakistan every single year. It makes me wonder, where will all these people go? Where will we eventually go as a nation if this trend continues without any planning? Where will we eventually go? So my dear brother, I urge you to never ever be misled or too deeply impressed by the superficial appearance of things that you see in the outside world. Never be impressed by someone's outward beauty or the shine of their society. Remember this powerful verse of the Quran when you look at the world around you. The Quran says they only know the outward aspect of this worldly life. These people are easily impressed by the mere facade of modern civilization. Rather, in even simpler terms that everyone can understand, I say to you, never be impressed by the packaging alone without knowing what is inside.